Are all people capable of changing in this way?
I mean, well, first of all, examine why you're asking yourself that question, or why you're interested in the answer to the question. Because usually, what's your mind doing? Is your mind saying, I want to hear him say that everybody is capable, which I will be able to disbelieve and then dismiss everything he says, right? Or I'm waiting for him to acknowledge some people may not be capable so that I can immediately assume that I'm probably one of those people. So before you even get an answer, examine what answer you're hoping to get, what answer you're prepared to get, what you're, probably going to do in the event that you receive an answer that you don't want. Do you see what I'm saying? Why do you want to get the answer that you want to get, and so on. That's probably important. And another thing is that people like to intellectualize and they like to theorize about this stuff, and a lot of that's stupid and a waste of time. I think that, and I think a lot of people, they find some kind of comfort. What do they find? Do they find comfort in believing some people are just incapable? And maybe that's why they haven't changed. The comfort in the idea that some people aren't capable, and that's why their parents or their partner hasn't changed. A lot of people, probably women in particular, they settle for a person, right? And they settle for a version of that person. They settle for particular behaviors from that person because at some level they kind of convince themselves that's the best the person's capable of doing. Then you have to examine yourself to find out whether that's what you're doing, or whether it may be something that you're doing. How does my belief in the possibility of impossibility, how does my belief in the possibility of incapability affect what I do and how I feel about the fact I'm doing what I'm doing? How does it enhance my ability to justify choosing things that don't serve me, right? Does it enhance my ability to justify tolerating behaviors from other people that I would otherwise find difficult to tolerate? Stuff like that. That's how you find out how the stuff's functioning in your life. When it comes to, so that way kind of this started right because you asked me whether or not a certain person is actually capable of doing a certain change. And I think asking that question is very different than asking whether or not they're likely to do the change. So if you were to say, do you think that this person's capable of doing the change? Fundamental, deep rearrangement of the way that they perceive and experience and interact with their internal experience, their external reality. Yeah, they're capable of doing it, and I would also bet pretty much any amount of money that it won't happen. Those, I think they're both true, right? And one of the things that people do is that if they're not immediately capable of doing something, if they're not immediately capable of grasping the full change, full enchilada. I'm going to give you the full enchilada joke. If they can't in one fell swoop radically change everything about what they're doing, or comprehend or understand what you're talking about, or lift the weight, I can't do it, right? But one of the things that I think is that there are pathways of capability that a person kind of has to go on before, and so it's like, and the pathway of capability means that I am capable of doing things that if I were to do those things consistently for a period of time, that I would become capable of doing that of which I'm not currently capable. A gradual transformation of capability. And most people, I feel like, unless they're guaranteed a certain result, they're not willing to do the effort, take the chance, the risk. They're not willing to risk undergoing discomfort that may not provide them the solution that they want. And so they don't try things to find out how the doing of the thing affected them physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever, in terms of their inclinations. I mean, that's like one of the things for me is like, I'll just do little things differently to see, like, does this affect what I am inclined and disinclined to do, to find out. Because if I can engineer an inclination one way or the other, that's really useful, because that means, one, I can make it so that I'm inclined to do something that will serve me, disinclined to do something that maybe I'm currently inclined to do that doesn't serve me. So I'll get the benefits of doing the useful thing or of not doing the not so useful thing, but I'll also get the benefits of having not had to overcome my inclination in order to do or to not do, which I can then channel towards some other activity, right? Some other effort or experimentation at engineering some kind of new inclination. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But a lot of people, they just can't do it, maybe this will help you be able to do it, or maybe this will help you be able to do something that will then cascade to being able to do something else that will then lead to your ability to do that thing. Well, it's a lot of maybes. You know, this is why people don't start businesses, why they don't invest. It's why they don't try not being an asshole to their partner. I mean, it's, you know, because unless you can guarantee me a result, I'm not going to do it. And then people who aren't willing to take risks very often feel entitled to a slice of the pie created by risk takers. You know, a lot of people want the quality of life that comes with taking risks, but they want it without risking anything. And I mean, I'm not even talking about risking money or stuff. I'm talking about like risking, you know, let me try this and see if it works. Let me try something that may not work to find out if it does. But, you know, people aren't comfortable doing that. And I think people they don't realize that capability is negotiable. That, you know, that capability is not a static state. That it's not like I'm incapable of doing that. Well, I mean, you're incapable of doing it right now, but you're also capable of doing a lot of things that you're not doing, right? Have you ever done those things before? Have you ever consistently done those things? Do you know the manner in which doing the right combination of things of which you are currently capable consistently for a period of time influences or affects or changes what you're capable of doing? That there are certain things that you can't, I mean, it's sort of like saving money. I can't afford it. Well, like, you know, affording a thing, it's not like you were like, affording a thing isn't static. A person who can't afford something today may be able to afford it tomorrow or next year. You know what I'm saying? Capability is like that. One thing that I look at is, am I willing to believe that there are things that I must be able to do that I cannot do? And I'm not. So for me, I believe, I'm willing to believe there are things that I can't do. And I'm willing to believe that there are things that I must do in order to get certain outcomes that are important to me. But I'm not willing to believe that there are things that I must do and that I can't do. Because it seems to me that believing that I must and that I can't with the same thing is unfair to myself. And it seems obviously, right, sort of destined to create a subpar experience and subpar results. And so I think, you know, one of the things is, people, they're not willing to do work on themselves, right? And doing work on yourself means changing what you're capable of doing. People are willing to do work on the world by doing what they're capable of doing. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then they're like, well, I'm not capable of doing the kind of work that's going to change the world in the way I want it to be changed. Whether the world is their body or their relationship or their financial situation. Well, maybe you need to do some of what you're capable of doing on working on yourself, right? Well, I tried that and it didn't work. Well, no, you tried something. So people say, I tried that, you know? Work on yourself and then try to get a date. Work on yourself and then try to start a business. Well, I tried that and it didn't work. No, you tried a version of it. You tried a thing. Maybe it was a dumb thing. Maybe you didn't do it for long enough. You know what I'm saying? There's all these different reasons. But they say, oh, I tried that. I tried personal growth. You know what I'm saying? That's like saying I tried food. I don't like it. You know, I tried talking to people. I don't like that. It's like, well, you talk to a person, you probably did a shitty job and you were probably talking to an asshole. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, what is it? The tendency, the willingness to think about, talk about capability as though it were a static thing, something that can be defined. This is what I'm capable of doing, this is what I'm not capable of doing. And then, you know, examine yourself and see whether or not you're using that to justify staying in some subpar quality of existence. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And if you're doing that, why are you doing it? You know, I mean, why are you justifying it at all? Just hang out there if that's where you want to be. And if that's not where you want to be, change something, do something different. Do you know what I'm saying? But I think that a lot of people's relationship to these ideas is unconscious and basically involuntary. So they don't see sort of the matrix of assumptions back behind. You know, I mean, so there are a lot of people who will say, well, you just think that everyone can do what you're capable of doing, and that's a this bias, and that's a assumption that I don't think is true. It's like, no, I'm not assuming everyone can do it. I'm just kind of acutely aware of the fact that you seem to be assuming that there's some people who can't, and I'm not sure about that. And so, one, I'm not sure that it's true that some people just can't, and two, I'm suspicious of what the conviction a lot of people do this. They have negative beliefs and assumptions that they pretend and that they will only confess to adhering to at a very big picture pattern level, right? And so they won't come right out and say, most people can't do this, many people can't do this, right? They'll just say, I don't believe that everybody can. I'm not convinced that everybody can. So they make it sound very reasonable. But then they systematically apply that belief in very specific situations, or you know, they act as though, they speak as though they believe that it probably applies to every meaningful situation they encounter. Do you know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, so that's what I think. Are there people who are, I mean, it's fundamentally unknowable, right? I mean, you know, are there people, and so my thing is then, is it useful to assume there are people who, if I assume that there are people who probably can't do it, I'm probably, every obstacle that I encounter, and there are likely to be many obstacles, right, is likely to activate that belief, that assumption, and cause me to quit. Imagine a reality in which I am capable of it, of doing this thing, achieving this thing, becoming whatever. Or I'm capable of becoming capable of doing it through some process of self-transformation. I do some shit that changes what I'm capable of doing. I then do that shit, which then further changes what I'm capable of doing, or changes the world such that what I need to be able to do in order to get the outcome that I want changes, and it changes from requiring me to do things that I'm not capable of doing to requiring me to do things that I am capable of doing, put myself in contact with people who are capable of doing it. I mean, all these fucking rearrangements. Do you know what I'm saying? Let's say I live in a world where that's possible, and I've got this belief, it's like, well, some people just can't do it. It's not, you know, it's not possible for some people. Every time I come to an obstacle or to a difficulty or to a non-result or to a negative result, I've got to overcome not just the raw experience of not what I want, I've got to overcome the experience of not what I want plus the possible meaning that not what I want means that what I want's not possible, or not possible for me. And I mean, does it seem smart to you to do that? Does it seem likely to be useful, or does it seem likely to be not useful? And how important does whether it seems smart or not, or whether it seems useful or not, how important is that to you? Is your commitment to the way that you're traditionally, you're just kind of like in the habit of thinking more important than what seems smart or what seems useful? And what are you fucking afraid of? And I think that's one of those things too, in believing that you're capable of doing something that you're not actually capable of doing. Why are you afraid of that possibility? Is it because of looking foolish to somebody else? Or why do you care about that? That's foolish. I mean, you know what I mean? I think that's one of those things too, is that having stupid priorities that I don't want people to not like me. I don't want people to think I'm silly. I don't want people to think I'm this or that. It leads to me doing stupid things, you know?